Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Senior Living Today. With us today is Denise Swick, owner of Swick Real Estate Group. Thank you for coming back for another episode with us, Denise.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So I know that you have been a realtor for many years. Can you tell us a bit about your background in real estate and how you got started?
My first time college gig has turned out okay. I was 20 years old when I started. So this year will be 35 years that I've been selling real estate. I'm still trying to figure out what I do when I grow up, but I think I'm on the right path. Yet it really is, when you're 20 years old, you really don't know a whole lot about real estate at all. Obviously, I'd never bought a house then, but I did by the time I was 22. But I was a full-time college student locally at Wright State University, a business major. And it just really was a happenstance, a fluke. But once I got into it, it was rewarding and it really fit my personality of who I am. And then I just learned how to be the best that I could be and how to serve other people in the real estate industry.
So I know that you also specialize in working with older adults. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you started specializing in working with them?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So being in the business as long as I have, I always say, years in the business, time on the planet, personal experiences, I realized that the house is really kind of the last piece on the proverbial totem pole. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that have to happen before we can sell the house for someone. And over the years, I was just asked to start helping with all of these different things from decluttering, fixing things up. What's the house going to sell for? What do we need to do? Is it going to sell as is? Just all of these questions kept coming. And then I realized that there's a big need for it. And especially with our population, at 10,000 people a day, turning 65 till 2032, the need is growing. And there's most people out there, there's, a ton of real estate agents that can sell your home successfully. Yet, how are you going to look at and control the chaos of getting rid of everything, of figuring out where you're going to go, how to manage that double move perhaps? And so I just started putting all of the different pieces in place of what it's taken, multiple clients of mine, and how we get to the ultimate sale of the property as calmly, peacefully, efficiency, all of that, and still get the top value for the home.
So I know on our last podcast with you, we talked about downsizing, how to downsize, and tips for how to handle that process emotionally. So I do want to remind our listeners, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, be sure to go back and listen to it after this one. But on this episode, we'll be talking more about the process of selling your home, getting your house ready to sell, and making the move. So let's go ahead and start by discussing some of the reasons why older adults decide to make a move.
There's a multitude of reasons. What I generally find is that the house is either two things. It's either financially too expensive to maintain it. Plus property values have gone up dramatically over the last couple of years with the real estate market, and property taxes have gone up as well. So the cost of maintaining the house can become prohibitive for some people, and the cost of maintaining the house as well. Like sometimes people aren't able to mow that acre of grass or even a small lawn, So what happens is the dynamics of just living in that home become overwhelming and challenging for somebody that needs a smaller place that's oftentimes maybe newer, so that the work is already done, that they don't have to go back and do. The yard is smaller or it's a condo. So there's a lot of different reasons, honestly.
Absolutely. And I know maintenance-free living and home upkeep is one of the reasons that we hear a lot for the older adults who choose to move to one of our communities. And I know that is a big benefit for them when they're looking to move.
Yeah.
When somebody goes to sell their home, what are some tips you have for them finding the best realtor in the area that they live?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really realize that it's a job interview when you're hiring a real estate agent. Just because you have a friend or a family member in the business doesn't mean that that's the best person for the job. Oftentimes it's not, because again, that emotion comes involved. Maybe you can't can be really transparent with one another. And I've seen it ruin many relationships. But also, not all real estate agents are created the same. So yeah, we all have a real estate license, but not all of them are productive. Still to this day, the average real estate agent in the country sells 4 homes per year. And as of 2023, 50% of all the licensees across the country didn't sell 1 home. So it's important to look, and everything, it's all Googleable. I thought I made that word up, but I didn't. It's on Wikipedia, but it's all out there. And people are shocked every time I tell them that. They think for years I've personally sold over 100 homes a year. They think people that know me think, well, doesn't everybody do that? They don't. The average is 4 homes a year. And so it's important that you find somebody that has some experience, not only in specifically sellers, but there's a different process, there's a different mindset, there's different tactics and techniques when you're selling a home as to when you're buying a home. And so you want to look for somebody that really is strong on a selling side of the process so that they can help you know how to get your property ready for sale, what to do to get the most money out of it, and then how to put a marketing and pricing strategy together so that you will maximize the sale on your home.
Yeah, and I think that's such great advice. So what you're saying is you don't have to go with the first realtor that you meet or that family friend who does interview them. And, I think the biggest interview I've been on was they interviewed 8 agents that I got. That's a lot. Like, that's kind of overkill. Yeah. But, I would recommend at least 2 to 3, that way you can get 3 different opinions. And sometimes it's a personality thing, like they may be equally yoked with, production and years in the business or whatever, but you just may not feel as good with one as you do the other. So I know another common question that comes up a lot is once a realtor is selected, do you have to pay them to represent you, or how does your realtor get paid?
It depends on if you're buying or selling. Historically, the commission comes from the seller. So commissions have always been negotiable. So it's something that there isn't a set 6 or 7 or whatever percent. They are negotiable, but in the absence of value is price. If you are getting the best quality agent, you're not going to get the cheapest agent too, right? So those things just don't match. There's like, you can buy a watch at Walmart, you can buy a watch at Nordstrom's, where you're going to pay more, right? There's going to be different quality, different types of, products there. So just look at what's important to you. And then you're going to only pay that agent once they perform. That's the other thing that people forget is we only get paid at the time that we have sold the property and it closes. There's many properties that I've done all of the work, things, are ready to go and beyond my control. The property doesn't close. Like a loan on the other side finally isn't ultimately approved, or, God forbid something happens to one of the people buying it or selling it, So there's things that happen that unless that agent performs, you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, and I think that's good for our listeners to know, because I know that's a common question that comes up when it comes to selling your house and selecting a realtor. So what advice might someone expect to get from their realtor during the selling process or the buying process?
If they're hiring a good real estate agent or a great real estate agent, then they're going to be able to let them know the difference between as is and improved, right? And not everybody has the funds or the money to do everything that the house needs in order to get it up to selling standard. So the natural way would be just to sell it as is and price it accordingly, right? However, there's other times that the 4 really important places that you can spend money to get a good ROI and to sell the home. And then I'll add number 5 as a bonus, but it's kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, and paint. For years, everyone says, well, I don't want to paint, or I don't want to put new floor in. The buyer is going to just take it out. That may be the case, but I promise you, it's less likely that's going to happen than your home is going to sit on the market, or you're going to get dramatically lower price, because if it costs you $4,000 to paint your house, the buyer is going to take $10,000 off the price, right? So it's those kind of things that are really important. And then the number 5, the bonus, is cleanliness. So, and this is so important and people overlook it, is even if you do sell a home as is, even if it doesn't either make sense to put in the updates, like you don't want to spend 10,000 to get 10,000, that's a waste of time and money. Just price it as it is and sell it, right? But even in those cases, it's wildly important that your home is clean. Look at the vents in the property, look at the corners, look at the baseboards, like make sure at least get your carpets cleaned. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to move in on someone else's filth.
Absolutely. And on the same note of that, I'd love to talk about a house being shown with furniture versus being shown, whether that's staged or with the owner's furniture or empty. What are your recommendations when it comes to that? What sells the best?
Yeah, so you've got great questions. I'm asked this a lot, and literally I tell them it depends on the house. I'm not trying to be trite when I say that, but I've seen many beautiful homes that are staged gorgeous, whether it's the way the homeowner lives or they brought in a professional stager, that haven't sold because they're trying to get the value higher than what it is. And I've also seen the opposite, right? So a vacant home is very unforgiving. When you have stuff in your home, you can hide the stain on the carpet or the marks on the wall. But once you've moved out and everything's gone, you're going to see every single blemish in the property. So it really depends on the property, the condition of the property. And also if there is a lot of stuff, let's say the property, the bones of the house are in great shape, but they have a lot of furniture. So an example, we had this wonderful lady we sold, she had a 1,400 square foot ranch. And I jokingly say she had 3,000 square feet of furniture in it. And it was true because I don't know if anything, we're in Dayton, Ohio, there's Huber Heights, and Huber Heights bedrooms are not abundant in that price, in that square footage of a home. So, if you have a king size bed and 2 armoires and a dresser in a 13 by 12 bedroom, like it really is a bedroom. Like you have to jump in on the bed because there's no other room. So, and buyers have a hard time seeing beyond other people's, honestly, their furnishings, their furniture. It's distracting for them. So if you have too much furniture, it could be just as a problem of having too little furniture.
That makes so much sense. And I think it's really good that you also touched on having too much furniture, because I know I've seen that before, and that can make spaces seem smaller or cluttered. And it's kind of hard, I think, to visualize your own things in that space if there's too much. But also, if you don't have anything in the space, then it is hard to hide some of maybe those imperfections that you wouldn't want a buyer to see. So I think that's all great advice. So let's talk now, once somebody's house has sold, what should people know about the closing process? And I know a question that we typically hear is, how long do I have to get everything out of the house?
That's also great. And that's honestly, Alexandra, going to be on a case by case basis. Until about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago, Ohio, it was just customary that it was 30 days occupancy. And what we find with a lot of seniors is they've not bought or sold a home in the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years. And what happened then is not happening now. So they don't always have that extra cushion of 30 days after, because the day that you close, the buyer owns your home. And with all the different, transitioning of buyers coming into our market, it's not just, people that have lived here all their life. It's a lot of transplants. They're used to other things. So it's all negotiated at the table, right? Or at the contract time. But I always tell people, if you absolutely need 2 weeks or a month or whatever the case may be upfront and transparent with your agent, and let your agent put that into the remarks. Because if you have a buyer that needs a home yesterday and you absolutely can't move around your schedule or have somebody help you move out at closing, then that's not going to be the right buyer for you, right? So being upfront and not wasting anybody's time, but being transparent on that, and then negotiating what you need. And if you can't negotiate it, then be prepared that you're moving out at closing, and to make sure that you've got a tight contract and so forth. And
well, I think that shows, though, the importance of having a good realtor, having those open conversations with them, and making sure that they're on your team and there to get you the best possible outcome for what you need.
Yeah. At closing is what we see 99% of the time right now. So it's important to be able to know to negotiate or be transparent up front.
Absolutely. So Denise, can you offer some tips for how to best handle the moving process? So I know one of the things that comes up a lot is, should I hire a moving company? Should I have family help me move? What are some of your tips for handling that process?
If you have family members that are movers, absolutely use them. If not, I would try, if you can financially do it, I would hire movers. That's their profession, and it's kind of like, back to my comment earlier, was in the absence of value is price, right? So if you have important items, if you have expensive items, it's a no-brainer to have professionals do it, because there's insurance, there's all of that. You don't have to go through the emotion and the yelling and screaming with family members, like, don't scratch that and don't break that and watch out for this. You know what I mean? That can also be very emotional and taxing. But if you can't do that, then just make sure that you invest in good moving supplies. Like, they've come a long way with bubble wrap and, stuff that really is going to protect your things, and make sure that you aren't just using banana boxes from Kroger to protect your fine china in moving. You know what I mean? So that's really, I guess, going to be a personal and financial decision, but I wouldn't think of moving without movers.
Yeah, I know the last time I moved, I hired movers, and it was the best decision I ever made. But I absolutely think if you have family that can do it for you, that's a great option as well. I know we've learned a lot today. We've talked about a lot of things, but what else are we missing? Is there anything else about getting your home ready to sell, the selling process, the moving process that you think our listeners should know?
Ask a lot of questions. And it all really starts with hiring the best agent, Think about, this is in most cases people's largest financial investment, and to leave that to a rookie or someone inexperienced or someone that doesn't understand. I mean, I was new once too, but I had a mentor that helped me do everything. You know what I mean? So at least make sure that you have somebody that you feel comfortable with, that's going to protect you in your best interest and knows how to do that with a track record of it. Because let's face it, you can go hire an agent, your neighbor, whatever, for about the same price that it's going to cost you to hire a professional with 10, 20, 30 years experience of track record and proven accountability and getting you the most value for your home. And just don't settle for less. Like if you have $300,000, Alexandra, that you're going to invest with a financial broker, you're probably going to go interview a few of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do the same thing with the real estate agents and learn what questions to ask. How long have you been in the business? How many listings, how many seller homes do you sell per year? What is your marketing strategy? What is your pricing strategy?
Well, Denise, I want to thank you again for joining us. I learned so much today about tips for getting your home ready to sell, what to expect during that process, questions to ask when interviewing realtors, that it's important to interview realtors. So I'm sure our listeners learned a ton from you today. As a reminder, everyone, if you haven't listened to the last episode we did with Denise on downsizing, please be sure to go back and listen to that. There's so much great information in there about tips for downsizing and helping with the selling process as well. So Denise, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners, please be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss a new episode. And we will be back with a brand new episode in 2 weeks.